No one ever imagined that behind the high fences, tight guard posts, and disciplined life typical of the South Korean military, a phenomenal moment would be born. A moment that not only shook the soldiers who witnessed it firsthand, but shook the entire K-pop world. The name Cha Eunwoo, who had been known as an angel face with a stable career, suddenly returned to adorn the entire international media when a video leaked from an internal military event. The video featured something his fans hadn't even imagined, a show called Too Perfect to Happen in the Military. The story begins on a night of freezing cold, a night that for the soldiers was just one of hundreds of training nights, but for the K-pop world, it became history. The simple stage set up in the barracks courtyard, the makeshift lights tied using wires from the equipment warehouse, and the old speakers belonging to the Military Cultural Center suddenly turned into the limelight after Cha Eunwoo's name was called to perform. And yet no one was ready for what happened after that. Not the soldiers, not the higher-ups, not even Eunwoo himself. When Eunwoo stepped onto the stage, his military uniform looked fitting and stern, contrasting with the aura of celebrity that lingered even as he tried to hide it. Her short, cropped hair, makeup-free face, and military-sounding MC voice couldn't mask the fact that standing there was one of the most handsome and most beloved idols in the world. It all started with a small cheer. A cheer that initially came from a few fellow soldiers who knew how incredible the occasion was. But as soon as the makeshift searchlight lit up, as soon as Eunwoo picked up the microphone with a hand that slightly shook from the cold air, the cheers turned into echoing shouts that made the commanders look at each other. "This is not an ordinary event," whispered one of the technical officers, not realizing that he was witnessing the beginning of a new history. Eunwoo stared at the empty stage in front of him, gulped, then smiled. The smile, which the fans had only seen through a glass screen, was now bouncing all over the barracks. He began to speak, his voice soft but firm. "I just want to make your night a little warmer. We all go through hard times. So, tonight, I want to sing not as a celebrity, but as a fellow soldier." That sentence alone is enough to make the atmosphere change. The soldiers began to gather more closely, while some senior officers even decided not to leave, curious about what would happen. Then the music begins. The first note alone already makes many people freeze. The song that Eunwoo chose was not a popular song that he used to sing on music shows. He chose a classic ballad song that was so emotional, a song that the soldiers often sang when they longed for home. The sound entered gently, then rose slowly like a stream of morning air in the mountains. Some of the soldiers were seen holding their breath. Some even immediately lowered their heads, trying to hide their reddened eyes. Even the commander, notoriously the most assertive and the hardest to touch, was seen blinking more often than usual. But that's just the beginning. I in the chorus, something happens. Eunwoo's voice suddenly grew, not because of his vocal technique alone, but because of the emotion he put into each verse. She sings as if she is speaking directly to someone, to her family, to her fans, to herself struggling in the spotlight. His voice broke a little at the end, not because of the wrong technique, but because he himself was moved. And it was precisely at that moment that the whole barracks exploded in applause. But the real surprise came in the second song. As the music changes, the atmosphere of the stage changes completely. From a soft ballad, it has now turned into a powerful beat and a rocking rhythm. ASTRO style, whispered a few soldiers before finally the entire courtyard of the barracks turned into a completely unplanned mini-concert. Eunwoo danced not just a simple gesture, but a complete choreography that made the soldiers stop munching on the snacks that had just been handed out. He moves with the precision of a professional idol, despite wearing heavy combat boots and a uniform that limits his range of motion. Even his small movements looked perfect, making the soldiers immediately stand up and shout like real concert-goers. "How could he stay like this in the military?" shouted one of the soldiers while hitting his friend on the shoulder. "It's crazy. He's even cooler here than on TV," said another soldier. Raising both hands in the AIRT, the dance break, everyone was silent. Eunwoo performed moves that even active idols rarely do in a full-load condition. He jumped, spun, then did a body wave that made the entire barracks seem to be recovered from the stress, pressure, and fatigue of weeks. The soldiers, who are usually disciplined, rigid, and tired by physical training, That night turned into the largest K-pop concert audience in South Korea. One of his close associates in the military was even recorded saying, "I have never seen a human being who can stay like this even though he gets up early every day and sleeps only 3 hours." But all of that was just the surface of a huge shock that shook the world, because without Eunwoo knowing it, one of the soldiers from the military media squad filmed part of his performance. Not for dissemination, not for sensation, but for internal documentation. But somehow, the 18-second footage leaked to the world. In less than 6 hours, the video was viewed over 97 million times. On X, Twitter, the name Eunwoo military performance became the world's #1 trending. On TikTok, the hashtag Eunwoo military stage broke through 1.2 billion views in just 24 hours. Even the American and Japanese media, which usually rarely discuss Korean military events, co-wrote long articles about this phenomenon. Comments from around the world are booming. How could someone look like this in the military? This is not human. This is the definition of national good looks. If I were a soldier there, I would have fallen in love again. The military uniform is supposed to make a person look ordinary, but in Eunwoo, the uniform level rose to become a luxury brand. In Korea, the Ministry of Culture even issued a statement that the video inadvertently became the most impactful promotion of military imagery throughout the year. Even senior military officials were reportedly surprised at the public reaction. But behind all the hype and the gleam of glory that ensued, there was one thing that made this story even more emotional. The reason why Eunwoo performed so well. According to several soldiers close to him, Eunwoo had said before taking the stage, "I just want to give something that makes people smile. We're all tired. If I can make someone feel better for just a few minutes, that's enough for me." Simple, honestly, warm. And that is what triggered a global resonance. Eunwoo doesn't perform for the camera, doesn't perform for popularity, doesn't perform for management. He performed for his fellow man. For soldiers who wake up early, eat fast, shower in a hurry, and rarely have a moment to breathe. For the soldiers who miss home, mother's food, sister's voice, or a simple message from family. For people who are struggling mentally and physically in the harsh military training. And the world caught that sincerity. As soon as the video went global, various K-pop stars began to comment. Several idols from Generation 3 to 5 re-uploaded the post. The famous music producer even mentioned that Eunwoo has set a new standard for idols serving in the military. A professional dancer commented, "Her body movements remain sharp and clean despite wearing combat boots. That's crazy." Even one Japanese pop culture analyst called the moment an example of how an idol can build an emotional bridge between the duties of state and art. On the other hand, entertainment company ASTRO immediately issued a short statement. "We are proud of Cha Eunwoo. He always gives his best wherever he is." But behind that short sentence, many fans suspect that the agency side was just as surprised as the world at the quality of the show. After that incident, the entire public's eyes were on Eunwoo. Although he did not give an official statement, a soldier from his barracks said in an interview, after the show was over, he sat alone laughing a little. He said, "I just want to help the atmosphere. Never thought it would be this big." We all know he's really sincere, but there was one most touching moment that didn't make it into the viral video footage. After the second performance, the stage lights went out for the turn of events. In the darkness, a young soldier approached Eunwoo. He looked nervous, his voice trembling as he said, "Hyung, thank you. I've been feeling heavy for a long time, but your voice just now made me feel strong again." Eunwoo didn't reply with long words. He simply put his hand on the soldier's shoulder and said quietly, "We're all going through this together. You're not alone." The soldiers who witnessed that moment said that Eunwoo was not only an idol, not just an actor, but also someone who was able to give strength without ever forcing himself. And that's the whole point of this story. It wasn't just the show that shocked the world.